Hey guys, Patrick, Conservative Rap, and in this video we're going to talk about how to survive in a liberal city. As we all know, it's easy to stand with a crowd. It takes courage to stand alone. And again, whether it's on a temporary basis or in the long term, we all know how challenging it can be to be the only person or believe you're the only person in an environment that thinks a certain way, right? Or operates under a certain set of beliefs. I have a friend who told me recently she just started a new job, and because she's a woman and she works with a group of women, one of the things she was told on her first day, day one, was, "Don't worry, we're all Democrat." So it's tough. It can feel in some of these, let's just say, heavily leftist environments that you're really like in an insane asylum to to a degree, right? New Yorkers move to Florida, California to Texas. To be clear, none of this is a knock on non-urban areas. The reality is basic economics may necessitate a relocation for certain people, but I believe if you can, it is better to stay and fight, right? You can be a great example to others in ways that you may not realize by speaking up for what you believe in a non-confrontational and a creative manner. So in this video, we're going to cover 4 ways to do that, right? How to put yourself in a position that you can survive in a liberal city or a liberal environment in ways that are effectively very unique to you. And this is going to be 4 steps. Step one is to be introverted or be more introverted, right? Learn to leverage the skill sets and embrace the positives of a more introverted nature. There's a book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain, and I'll link to it in below. She gives examples of powerful introverts. Some are famous, some are not so famous. She talks about the neuroscience of it, right? Personality styles, etc., the benefits and the positives, and how even in our heavily extrovert culture, you can learn to develop talents and abilities just by simply starting with a fundamental appreciation for introversion as a character trait. So think, for example, like risk assessment, long-term tactical planning, even communication skills to agree can be developed by adopting habits that introverts tend to have or tend to be inclined towards. The challenge is that our culture, our society doesn't necessarily encourage us to allocate the time or prioritize those types of activities. So, for example, if you can sit quietly with yourself, let's say for just 10 minutes, you can learn to observe your thoughts. And if you can observe your thinking, you can start to notice patterns in them. And when you begin to notice the patterns, you can notice like the sequence, how you can wind yourself up or how you can set yourself up to believe certain things and detach from it. So you may like begin to start asking yourself like, do I actually need that many people around me? Do I need that many people to interact with to the extent that you think you do? Right? Why or why not? There's a podcaster, Jesse Lee Peterson, and he says, and this is my idea. I agree with him. Over time, if you can pray silently with yourself, eventually there'll be no difference, right? Whether there's someone there with you or not, you won't be affected. Either way will be fine. Step two is to be creative or to find creative outlets for yourself. And one of the things that fascinates me about conservatives, the conservative movement, etc., is that we're not really in the arts per se. I'm starting to realize there may be a reason why it's called the liberal arts in like college. At least they're not in any predominant way, and that's probably not by accident, right? Think of COVID. While we were locked down, many of us like reclaimed hobbies and interests that and passions that we simply didn't have time for prior to. And if there's anything you could be doing like besides work, outside of work, that would be interest to you, that's kind of the focus here. I don't necessarily mean something musical. I don't mean something artistic. It could be self-defense. It could be martial arts. It could be hiking. It could be kayaking. I've heard this referred to as a third space. So many of us today are lacking a third space in which to exist, to be, or do something, or at least meet new people and interact with them. There's work, there's home, and for many of us, that's really it, right? So think about something that you may think would be silly, right? Or you may think you might look silly doing it at first. Any endeavor where you have to learn a new skill, especially if it's something that's been in the back of your mind or something you think you might get to one day, that's what I'm talking about here. The question is it really that you don't have time for it? Or are you worried that you might like embarrass yourself, right? How you might actually come across when you're trying to do it. Remember that procrastination and self-doubt are very intertwined. And we have many different clever like disguises for discounting ourselves in certain ways. So don't take yourself too seriously. Don't underestimate the value of a new outlet or a like an outlet that you've been neglecting, and what it can do for you or what it can do for your future. Even me, this is something I'm learning like with a trainer to this very day. So very important. Step three is to be normal. And I know that's not the most like enthralling point, but it has to be said. I was talking with a friend this day, a very strong sort of leader in the conservative community. And he says, I can't tell you the amount of guys that I know who can quote statistics out there behind, right? They can cite facts from all over the planet, history, whatever it is, but they can't just simply socialize and relax. And I agree with him. He said to me, we have to normalize it. So if it applies, like, is it a question of basic social skills, right? How you're coming across. Are you too hardcore? Are you too extreme? Remember, don't take yourself too seriously, and really don't take your politics too seriously. If it applies, groom yourself, right? People learn from, they listen to, they're receptive to, they open and attract themselves to ideas from people that they admire and respect. It's like sales. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And you may not think it's sales, but in politics, it's really the realm of ideas and how you communicate them, how you come across. Like, it's really part of the packaging of the idea as a whole. So, reality is, you may be the first real life human. If you're in a liberal area, right? If you're in a liberal city, you may be the first real life human being that a lot of people come across that think in the manner that you do. It's common sense to you and I, but for the person you're interacting with, the people you're interacting with, it may be a lot of work for them. It may be a lot of cognitive dissonance that they have to get over to mentally consider your viewpoint. So try to make it as easy as possible. Just don't be weird and don't be extra. And step four is to be patient. This is really the conclusion. You want to choose your battles. You want to find like-minded people to the best you can, of course, but ultimately you want to not need it. And this is what I mean by like being patient and finding like a cadence that works for you. If we need something out of desperation, we may overreact and rush to get that thing. Compulsion is very interesting. Whether it's with things in our lives or with people, it's a very dangerous state to be in because it can cause us to like attempt to force things and try to take action on things that are not within our direct control. So in many ways, because we think we need something, we end up sabotaging what actually may be more advantageous to us than we currently like realize at the time. Reality is, you may not always have been conservative yourself, right? So people need their own time to wake up to certain things. And just like people need their own time, cities and neighborhoods need their own time. States and nations need their own natural time. So the only thing you can do is you can become someone to help facilitate that for them. So as you're going out in the world, like, it should come to you naturally, right? Like what to do, what to say, who to be with and around, how to stay aware, how to watch your back, how and when to make like casual references or jokes that might be like semi-political. You'll hear it as you talk to people because they'll just naturally like open up to you more, like in a de-stressed state. So you may already know this, like some of your best friends, some of the people who mean the most with to you and that you connect with the most, you don't necessarily see eye to eye with them on specific political issues, right? Conversely, there are people who on paper may match your viewpoints like specifically to a T. It doesn't mean that these are people you should actually be spending time with or running with necessarily. So this is something a lot of moderate or old school Democrats in the media say that I actually agree with fully. The old school in America was Democrats, Republicans could debate and interact on politics, and it wasn't such a much like a big deal, right? They could be friends after, they can get drinks after, they would look at each other no different after the discussion that was like political in nature. Technology, it's my opinion, but I think it may be something with technology where we've created these bubbles and we've lost the ability and the confidence to interact with one another. And we judge, even like more fundamentally, we judge archetypes, right? We don't look at people as individuals anymore, really. We actually bucket them in groups. Downstream from that, because we've lost the art of in-person interaction and because we're constantly judging others, we've also lost our ability to clearly like articulate what we believe in and why, like in a way that's convincing and persuasive and matched to the person and the circumstance in real time. The ability to defend your ideas, the ability to just get clear on what you think, it comes from interacting with people you disagree with, not with people you agree with, if you really think about it. So again, it takes courage to stand alone. It's one thing if you can see like you're in a genuine like danger, or like just for financial well-being long term, you're making a logical decision on where you need to be, but you don't want to run, right? If you run from something, like I've heard it said and I agree, if you run from evil, it'll follow you wherever you go. So in my mind, we have an opportunity to make a lot of change in the territories that we're currently in, and with the people that we're currently around. Hope this helps. Feel free to leave some comments in the below, and yeah, let's get out there. Take care, guys.